Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Jay the One-Eyed Gamer video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a lot of information that dumped during this year's E3 for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, pretty much my most anticipated game next year, and there was a lot of information that was dumped on us. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? First off, I want to talk about the reveal of Tifa Lockhart, literally one of my favorite female characters of all time, and obviously there was a lot of controversy surrounding what her design would look like, considering Tifa has been pretty much portrayed with a large chest, or being very well endowed if you will, and having a certain specific figure. Up until her release, everyone in the fandom was kind of freaking out about what Square was going to do. They didn't know if they were going to reduce her bust size, they didn't know if they were going to completely change her character, change the outfit. We really wanted to see what Tifa looked like, because I consider her best girl. I know a lot of people like Aerith, and that's perfectly fine, but I've always enjoyed Tifa a little more. So when we got to see her revealed during the trailer at E3, I can personally say I was happy. I really enjoyed her redesign. The outfit stays true to the original design. She does look a little more slimmer, which I'm kind of okay with. I don't mind that. And the outfit itself looks great. Like, you still have the classic white tank top with the suspenders. The skirt seems a little longer, which I'm okay with. Her gloves seem a lot more well designed, and you can actually make out some of the carvings on the gloves themselves as you look at high definition pictures. The hair looks amazing. Her face looks great. It looks like somewhat of the Advent Children design with a little of the original mixed in, so I'm very happy with that. Obviously, some fans aren't happy about that, but you know, honestly, I think Square is doing good so far. Like, all the characters I feel like with their new redesigns have also had some level of faithfulness to the original concept art back then. But her combat looks amazing. I think with that's a great segue to our next talking point, which will be the combat that was revealed during the game and some of the trailer information we got. Now, what was interesting during the Square Enix press conference is we actually got, I think, about like maybe a almost 10-minute demo of gameplay with people actually playing the game, and they broke down the mechanics of how the battle system is going to work in Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 1. Essentially, it's going to be an action RPG, but it's also going to have hybrid features of a turn-based system. Now, what that really means is what they showed us off in the game is that primarily the most of the game is going to be taking place actually in an action-style RPG environment. So you're going to hit the square button to build up your ATB, your active time bar, and when that's filled, you are then able to go into a menu which lets you use potions, magic, and skills, and I think limit breaks to literally dish out the greater parts of the damage. But what was interesting is that you have the ability to literally stop or slow down time when you go into that menu with the ATB active. So that way, if you want to be more strategic with your combat, you have the ability to do that. So for instance, you can be playing as Cloud, have him move over to a target and decide to use like fire or bolting on them, and then you can switch over to Barret while that's still going on and it will still be slowed down, and then you can have Barret execute an attack with that as well to make somewhat of a combo attack. So it's nice to see that there is some level for old school fans like myself, but personally I enjoy action RPGs a lot more than traditional old RPGs. Square Enix has talked about that if you want to play the game as a full action RPG and never use the stop mechanic, you're more than welcome to. You just have to click a button to shortcut them like you would do in Kingdom Hearts. So technically you can play this game again either in the hybrid system with the turn-based, or you can go full action. It's all up to you how you want to play, and I commend Square for that, because they could have easily just gone straight action RPG and not thought about the old school fans who actually enjoy, you know, turn-based RPG, since that's a dying breed nowadays. I think Square is really trying hard with this. Like, I really do think they care and know that there is a lot riding on the first part of the remake to do really well, to get old fans like me and new players invested, because depending on how long we have to wait between each installment, like, the games have to hold up and the combat and the characters have to be enjoyable, which I think is not going to be the problem here. Doing that is another great way to segue into our last part of the conversation, which is going to be the release date and the release structure for the remake going forward. And speaking of release dates, Square did give us the release date for Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 1, and it's coming out March 3rd, 2020. We kind of all figured that was going to happen. It was going to launch in 2020. It's nice to know, though, that we won't have to wait super long for it, because it's coming out that early in the year, which will give us an entire year to play the game, and maybe if Square wants to give us some, like, cosmetic DLC, like maybe Advent Children clothes for the characters. I don't know, that's something I think they might do. I'm also kind of surprised that they did give us a specific release date. I thought they were just going to give us a general release window of like 2020, but I was very surprised. With that, Square also really doesn't know how many parts they want to turn Final Fantasy 7 Remake into. The producer of the brand, Yoshinori Kitase, did state that Part 2 won't take as long as we think it will, but it won't be out as fast as we hope. What that leads me to believe is that since it's going to be faster because they already have a lot of models and assets from Part 1 that they can port over to Part 2, so that does alleviate some of the work, but again, you still have to do the scenario for Part 2, the different environments for Part 2, any gameplay different mechanics you're going to have, because obviously with this Part 1, if there's any specific gameplay tweaks that could be more refined, they'll probably do it in Part 2 and add more characters. So obviously I think that's what's going to happen. I would dare say that the release schedule for each part should be no less than 2 years, like it was with the 13 trilogy. It should not be that far apart between each installment, because any longer than 2 years, I think the fan base kind of like, you know, loses interest, or you lose a lot of people who would play Part 1 to part 2. Honestly, I hope that Remake is actually 3 parts like it was for the original PlayStation game, only because if you look at it, part 2 could probably be the biggest part of this trilogy or saga that they're telling. Because of its open world, they technically could go to at least 2 of the 4 continents that are there, and they could end part 2 on Aerith's death. They could do that. They could change around where certain events happen as well, and then part 3 could literally just be the end of the game. But either way, I'm looking forward to this game, and I don't know if each game is going to be multiple discs like part 1, because if you guys don't know, part 1 is going to be 2 Blu-ray discs, and to my knowledge, the only other game that's done it this generation has been Red Dead Redemption 2. So here's hoping that when the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox comes out, that we'll be able to fit all this stuff on one disc, because it's been a long time since I've had to switch out discs to continue playing a game. It's a very nostalgic feeling that I think a bunch of young gamers will never understand. That's going to do it for this video, guys. I want to thank you very much. Again, I'm super hyped for this game. This is probably my most anticipated game of next year, next to Tales of Arise, so I'm looking forward to it. If there's any more information, I definitely want to try and talk about it, and I definitely want to talk about when my boy Red 13 gets announced, because I think he's going to make it into part 1. I just don't know how they're going to work him into it, because he would technically show up in the last third of the game, literally when you're escaping Shinra Tower, so I don't know how they would treat him and how much time they could give him to like justify adding him. That's all I'm thinking about, since the game's going to end at Midgar. That's going to do it for me, guys. I want to thank you very much. I want you all to have a great day, and remember, let's rock!